How do you deal with loneliness? This is a question that I get pretty frequently in my comment section, probably because I've been traveling solo for the last 2 years now. And I figured that this is an important enough topic to make its own dedicated YouTube video because I know a lot of people out there struggle with loneliness, and so I want to give you some of my tips and tricks and ways that I've learned to cope and manage my loneliness while traveling full-time by myself. So first I want to start by differentiating between alone versus lonely. So alone is the physical state of being alone without other people around. Simple. But on the other hand, loneliness is an emotional state, usually emotion of sadness, that is associated with a lack of connection. So while yes, I do spend like 99.9% of my time alone by choice, that's just me being physically alone. And so it's important to clarify that I don't necessarily feel lonely all of the time, because being alone doesn't mean that you are lonely. Just the same as being lonely doesn't necessarily mean you're alone. Like, a lot of people will feel lonely even when they're in a group of people because they don't necessarily feel connected to those people. So loneliness isn't the physical state of being alone. Loneliness is that emotional state of sadness that's associated with lack of connection. And I think it's really important to differentiate between these two things, because a lot of people will get stuck thinking, oh, I can't go do that by myself because then I'll be lonely. No, you just need to learn how to enjoy your alone time. But then the question is, how do you do that, right? So I have 5 tips that I want to share with you that have helped me get to where I am today with my comfortability of being alone. Number 1 is recognize that your thoughts shape your reality. So if you go into a situation alone thinking, this is going to be terrible, I'm going to hate it, I'm going to be so sad and lonely, guess what? That's probably what's going to happen. But if you go into an experience alone thinking, wow, this is kind of scary and feels a little unusual, but I'm excited and I think I could enjoy it, then that's more likely to happen. So beginning to reframe your thoughts around your alone time might help. Number 2 is notice your thoughts about yourself. Notice when you're thinking negatively about yourself and thinking, oh, no one would ever want to talk to me because I'm so terrible, and start to begin to change those into more positive talk. You don't have to like BS yourself, but the way that you speak to yourself matters. And if you tell yourself that I am confident and I am loving and I am deserving of people around me who feel the same way, then that's going to start to happen, but it's slow. But it's a process of reframing your negative defaults into better ones that you actually want to happen. Number 3 is don't compare yourself to other people. A lot of times you'll see people posting on social media, big group pictures of 10 people getting together, and you think to yourself, well, why don't I have that? Because you're not them. Some people have large groups of friends and they can socialize a lot, and that's great for them. Other people maybe have a shorter social battery and prefer to have deeper one-on-one connections with people. That's definitely me. And so beginning to understand that about yourself and not compare yourself to other people and really understand what you want out of your friendships, that will help you bring in the good friendships that you actually want. Going along with that, number 4 is to evaluate the connections that you have. Remember how I said earlier that loneliness can sometimes happen when you're physically alone, but it can also happen when you're surrounded by people. So if you're with a bunch of people, but you don't really like feel them, like you don't vibe with them, you're just kind of hanging out with them because you don't want to be alone, but they're also not your type of person that you want to be around, stop hanging out with them. I think the best thing that I ever did for myself was take alone time to just be with myself instead of forcing myself into a relationship that wasn't working, because I was afraid of being alone, and that's how I started traveling by myself. Because I decided to prioritize the quality of the people in my life and not the quantity. And doing that can be kind of difficult. At first, you feel very uncomfortable. A lot of times in society, they tell us that, you have to be with other people or else you're failing. But it's okay to take a few months for yourself, bro. Like, I'm not saying stay alone and reject people forever. don't hear that. I'm saying to take time, I guess this is tip number 5, to strengthen your connection to yourself. A lot of times we can also feel lonely because of that lack of connection to ourselves. And so there's a lot of different ways that I like to strengthen my connection to myself. First and foremost, we already talked about it, positive self-talk, strengthening that connection with yourself, treating yourself as if you're the person that you love, because you should be. But it's this concept of dating yourself, I heard from the Happy Camper Girl over on Instagram. And a lot of times we'll be a lot nicer to our partners than we are to ourselves, and that's not necessary. And beginning to strengthen that connection with yourself and treat yourself as the partner that you want, if that makes any sense. That's one way. Or I also like to journal or meditate, do yoga. If you don't know, I'm also a yoga teacher. I have some free yoga classes here on YouTube, and I also have a Mind on Yoga Academy and grounded yoga retreats. All of that will be linked down below if you want some assistance in strengthening your connection to yourself in that way. But there's a lot of different ways to strengthen the connection you have with yourself. Maybe you take time out of your week to just go do a hobby that you enjoy, just for the fun of it, not because you want to be perfect at it, but just to have fun with yourself, I guess. And while you start to practice enjoying your fun time, because remember, it is a practice, you will not just magically enjoy your alone time tomorrow because you watched this video. You have to continually practice having fun with your alone time. But while you do that, to make the transition easier, of course, maintain your connections that you have digitally, either via phone call with your friends and family. I mean, FaceTime is great these days, or social media even. There's different places that you can find safe, smart connections online, sometimes through Facebook groups. There's meetups, nomad meetups, van life meetups, or different retreats, grounded yoga retreats is a way to make new connections with like-minded people. There's also different clubs that you can find on Facebook. I mean, yeah, you can think of a club, but that's not usually the club that I like. When I was in university, I joined a hiking club when I was in the pit of my alone time. And that really helped me get into hiking and enjoy the outdoors. And now that I'm saying it out loud, heck, it's why I'm living the life that I'm living right now, probably, and just living outside, just because I took a step and joined a club to meet people who also liked hiking, and that helped me get into it. In a similar fashion, you can do seasonal work, because that's another great way to meet similar like-minded people who are maybe on similar lonely journeys but want to find connection with other cool people. And if you want to learn a little bit more about my personal experience with seasonal work, you can check out this video in the cards. And even offline, you can go the old school way of meeting people in coffee shops or in group fitness classes at the gym, or, there's all kinds of places that you can run into people. And as long as you just stay open to connection, I think this is something that I'm personally still working on, is not always having my guard up, no, I'm alone, leave me alone. There's sometimes that you need to do that for your own safety as a woman traveling alone in the world. So do get very good at that, but also know when it's okay to take your walls down and say hey to that cool person in the coffee shop that you've seen there every single week for the last 4 weeks. A lot of times we hold ourselves back from connections because we're afraid to say anything, but you never know. So yeah, I guess those are my 6 tips for dealing with loneliness, whether you're traveling full-time on the road like me or just living your life. I think loneliness can affect each and every one of us, and it's important to have the tools in your toolkit to help you deal with it. So if you found this video helpful, make sure to show me with your thumbs. That helps me know what you guys want to see more of on this channel. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe down below. That really helps me out, and I hope to see you guys again in my next video. Bye, guys. Actually, you want to watch the sunset together?
Close your eyes, hear the voice within, calling. This heavy load got under your skin, howling. You got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your feelings bottled up inside, heading for collision.